Assalamu alaikum, you nines. Hope you're enjoying your weekend. Just thought that I might upload a few videos in preparation for your quiz on Monday, where you'll be required to calculate the perimeters and areas of your of different types of shapes. Now I've got a different type of shape in front of me today. We call these shapes, as we learned in class, composite shapes, because they're made up of a number of simple shapes. So a question that you might get is something like this, where you're required to calculate the area of it. You'll be given enough information in the form of dimensions to calculate it, but the real tricky thing is to be able to determine what type of shapes this composite shape is made up of. So having a look at the shape on the right, we can already see that we can see a few simple shapes. We've got two triangles. Oops. We've got two triangles on either side. We've got two semicircles, and the remainder are 5 squares. I know it's not drawn to scale, but these are all squares. So altogether we need to calculate the area of 2 triangles, 2 semicircles, and 5 squares. So what I'm going to do is calculate the area for each individual shape and then add them all together. In other words, I'm going to calculate the area of these triangles, calculate the area of these semicircles, and also the area of the 5 squares. Once I do that, I'm going to add them all together, and that will give me the total area of this composite shape. So let's do that. So first of all, I'm going to calculate the area of the triangle. So I've got my 2 triangles here. I'm going to try and calculate them. Now I know my height of the triangle is 6 centimeters as given in the shape. But what is my base? Well, my base is 5 centimeters, right? So from there to there is 5 centimeters. And the formula for the area of a square is just half the base times the height. So substituting those values inside of this equation, this formula, will give me half times 5 times 6. Half times 5 is 2.5, and 2.5 times 6 is equal to 15 centimeters squared. So that's the area for just one triangle. However, in my shape I have 2 triangles, so I'm just going to double 15 up. So 15 centimeters squared times 2 will give me 30 centimeters squared. So off to the side, I'm going to just make a note that the 2 triangles, area of the 2 triangles is 30 centimeters squared. I'm going to need to keep that for later on. Now I'm going to move on to my squares. So as we discovered earlier on, we realized that this shape is made up of 5 squares. And of course they're not drawn to scale, but bear with me, each of these shapes are a square. And when we look at our composite shape, we realize that each square has dimensions 5 by 5. Why? Well, from here to here is 5 centimeters, and since this has a line going through it, this length must be equal to this length as well. We know this is 5 by 5 and this is 5 by 5, and therefore all these dimensions have the same length. So our squares are 5 centimeters by 5 centimeters. Our formula for squares is just length times width, and since they're both the same, it's just 5 times 5. So 5 centimeters times 5 centimeters, and that will give me 25 centimeters squared. How many squares do I have in total? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to have to times 1 square by 5, and that will give me 125 centimeters squared. So I'll also make a note of that. My 5 squares, the area of them all together is 125 centimeters squared. Now we're going to move on to the last shape, which are our 2 semicircles. Looking at our composite shape, in order to calculate the area of a semicircle, we need to know its radius, and so we're given enough information in our shape to determine its radius. So our semicircles are located over here and here, and we already know the length from here to here and here to here. It's just the same as the length of a square, 5 centimeters. So if from here to here is 5 centimeters, then the radius is just half of 5, which is 2.5 centimeters. We can now plug this value into the formula for the area of a circle. But just keep in mind that we're trying to determine the area of half a circle, a semicircle. So if I want to find out the area of a semicircle, I need to first determine what the area of a circle is, which is given by this formula, pi times the radius squared, and then I need to divide that by 2 since we're dealing with just half a circle. So my radius is 2.5 squared, sorry, 2.5. So I'm going to plug that into the formula. So pi times 2.5 squared divided that by 2 will give me approximately 9.8 centimeters squared. So that's just the area of just one semicircle, but I have 2 semicircles, and therefore I will multiply 9.8 centimeters squared by 2, and that will give me 19.6 centimeters squared. So that is the total area of both of my semicircles. Now if you go back to the beginning, I said that we needed to calculate the area of each shape that composed or comprises of our composite shape and add them all together. And so we've got all the information that we need now. The final step is just to add all the shapes together. So I need to add the total area of all my squares, all the 5 squares, which was 125 centimeters squared, plus both my triangles, which was 30 centimeters squared, plus finally my 2 semicircles, which was 19.6 centimeters squared. Adding them all together, I finally get an answer of 174.6 centimeters squared. Therefore, this weird looking shape has an area of 174.6. Don't forget to just, whenever you're trying to solve these in your quiz, never forget to write the proper unit. So remember, our units for distance, lengths, widths, these kind of things is always centimeters, but our unit for areas always is centimeters squared. And that's about it. I'll go through another example for you guys where we have to calculate the perimeter or area of sectors, because that will also appear in your test. But have a look through this video, try it, repeat it, pause the video if you don't get anything, and always know that you can always email me anytime you need help with any questions. Assalamu alaikum.